Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 21st Century Philippines and World Literature. For this week, our first week, our topic will be Clearing the Space, Review the Study of Literature. Our objectives for this week would be identifying the deeper meaning of literature. We will be also discussing the qualities of literature and its divisions. We will be also distinguishing the properly reading material that they encounter. And last but not the least is we will be differentiating the characteristics of the two divisions of literature. So let's proceed to the first slide. Clearing the space, review the study of literature. So the essence and significance of literature. Literature, the origin of the word or the term is litera, which means letter. It deals with ideas, thoughts, emotions of manus. It can be said that literature is the story of man. Also, literature comes from the French praise, belles letters, which means beautiful writing. So literature in the broadest sense is everything that has ever been written. The best way to understand human nature fully and to know a nation completely is to study literature. Through literature, we learn the innermost feelings and thoughts of people, the most real part of themselves. Thus, we gain an understanding not only of others, but more importantly of ourselves and of life itself. Literature offers us an experience in which we should participate as we read and test what we read by our own experience. Also, it does not yield much unless we bring something of ourselves to it. So, basically, literature is a faithful production of life. In a sense, it is a product and a commentary on life process. It illuminates life and our life stories, including its struggles, ideas, failures, sacrifices, and happiness, is on the is literature basically. It also appears to man's higher nature and it needs emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and creative. Like all other forms of art, literature entertains and gives pleasure. It fires the imagination and arouses noble emotions and enriches man by enabling him to reflect on life and by filling him with new ideas. So we have here, literature is one of the seven arts. Seven arts. We have music, dance, painting, sculpture, theater, and architecture. And as such, literature is a creative product of a creative work, the result of which is form and beauty. So, like in the French phrase, bells, which mean letters, and it is a beautiful writing. In short, literature is a creative work of beauty. So, why do people read literature? So, I guess we're as per Nuggets, people read literature for more information, for amusement, and for higher and keener pleasure, for cultural upliftment, and for discovery of broader dimensions in life. We have also hallmarks of literature. As per Hallmarks of literature. It is the ability to judge of literature is based on the application of certain recognizable standards of a good literature. So there is a standard of a great literature, and it is distinguishable of the following qualities. We have here artistry. Artistry is a quality which appeals to our sense of beauty. So each person has its own sense of beauty. We have our own sense of beauty, and we have our own choices. We have our own options and preferences, which are beautiful for us to hear or to see. So this is the artistry. Intellectual value. A literary work stimulates to thought, enriches our mental life by making us realize fundamental truths about life and human nature. So for this quality, the intellectual value, we are making our realization about the life and human nature. Another quality is suggestiveness. This is the quality associated with the emotional power of literature, such that it should move us deeply and steer our creative imagination, giving and evoking vision above and beyond the plane of ordinary life and experience. When for literature, there is also always a suggestiveness. So for this one, we are imagining, and by imagining, we have our own creativity, and it evokes our vision above, and it evokes something about our life and experience as well. And another quality we have is spiritual value. A good literature elevates the spirit by bringing out moral values, which makes us better persons. This capacity to inspire is part of the spiritual value of literature. So, a good or a great literature has this quality, which is the spiritual value, because it brings out our moral values and makes us a better person. So we are realizing that we could be a better person to this world, and we are inspired because of this literary work of art. Permanence. Permanence is a great work of literature endures. It can be read again and again, as each reading gives fresh delight and insights and open new worlds of meaning and experience. So for permanence, there is something new. There is a new idea, new insights, and it opens up our imagination in new worlds of meaning and experience. And last quality that we have is universality. Great literature is timeless and timely. So it's it's reversible. We don't know. It's timeless and timely, forever relevant in terms of its theme and conditions. So a literary text can be studied in different or several ways: for its thematic value, for entertainment value, for the richness of its plot, for comparison with other works, for the ideas it contains, for its emotional power, for character analysis, as an appeal to move readers to action, for social reforms, for its representation of literary movements and techniques, for authors' unique use of language style, and most importantly, for its reflection of life itself. So we have here the divisions of literature, the prose and poetry. So all literature falls under two main divisions, the prose and poetry. You have here the form, language, appeal, and aim for the prose and poetry. Prose, we have types, which is the prose drama, essay, and prose fiction. Prose drama is a drama in prose form, It consistently and tired of dialogues in prose, and it is meant to be acted on stage. One example of that is Romeo and Juliet. Another one is essay, short literary composition, which is expository in nature. The author shares some of his thoughts, feelings, experiences, or observations on some aspects of life that have interested him. And we also have the prose fiction. Under prose fiction, we have novel and short story. So prose fiction is something that has been invented, imagined, or feigned to be true. So we have novel, a long fictitious narrative with a complicated plot. It may have a main plot and one or more subplots that develop with the main plot. Characters and actions representative of the real life of past or present times are portrayed in a plot. It is made up of chapters. We have one example, Without Seeing the Dawn by Esteban Haveliana. Another prose fiction is the short story. Short story is a fictitious narrative compressed into one unit of time, place, and action. It deals with a single character interest, a single emotion of series of stories of emotion called forth by a single situation. It is distinguished from the novel by its compression. So it is basically compressed. It is short. Unlike novel, it is made up of chapters. One example is The Dead Stars by Paz Marquez Benitez. For prose, we also have biography and autobiography. Biography is a short story of a certain person's life written by another one who knows him, the former well. Example is Cayetano Arellano by Socorro O. Alberto. And autobiography is a written account of man's life written by himself. So it is basically your life and it is written by yourself. Example is A Woman with No Face by Miss Pilar Pilapil. Another prose is a letter. Letter is a written message which displays aspects of an author's psychological makeup, not immediately apparent in his more public writings. It is a prose form which, by the force of its style and the importance of its statement, becomes an object of interest in its own right. And we have another prose form, which is the diary. Diary is a daily written record or the account of writer's own experience, thoughts, activities, or observation, or also known as your Dear Diary. Another prose form is we have a journal, a magazine or periodical, especially of a serious or learned nature. We have other prose forms, historical prose. It is a prose from dealing with historical events. Scientific prose, it deals with the subject science. Satirical prose, a prose form that ridicules the vices and follies of men. Current publications, these are books, magazines, or newspapers that are commonly known or accepted or in general usage at that time specified or if unspecified at the present time. So these are current publications in prose form, books, magazines, newspapers that we have here in the Philippines. Magazines such as Yes Magazine, newspapers such as Philippine Star, Manila Bulletin. Another prose form we have is literary criticism. The analysis, interpretation, and evaluation of literary works. It does not mean finding fault with. So basically, it's your own criticism to a particular literary work or literary art. Book review. This is very famous because book reviews are basically dealing with the contents, literary worth, etc. of a book, especially a recently published book. It is very common because nowadays we have movie reviews as well. So for this prose form, we have the book review. Another one is philosophy. So philosophy is a prose form that deals with the process governing thought and conduct. It also deals with the theory of the investigation of the principles or laws that regulate the universe and underlie all knowledge, and principles or laws that regulate the universe and underlie all knowledge and reality. Philosophy is a wide prose form because it has to deal with the thoughts and conducts of each person. Travel. Travel is a written account of trips, journeys, tours, etc. taken by the writer. You yourself can write your own travel written account prose form. Journey to, for example, my journey to Sagada. So you can write that, and it is a great example of a prose form. And another one is parody. Parody is an imitation of another's author's work where ridicule is the main objective. In other short term, parody is like an imitation, but it has funnier content, and it's not more serious than the first content that you had copied. Another one is the anecdote. For anecdote is a brief narrative concerning a particular individual or incident. So anecdote is concerning to a particular individual or incident, and one of the example is the moth and the lamp. You may search for it as well. Character sketch. Character sketch is a short description of the qualities and traits of a person. So when you are identifying and describing the qualities and traits of a person, it is regarded as a character sketch prose form. Parable is very famous. Since we were child, we are being taught by a lot of parables in our early childhood days. Parable is a short tale that illustrates principles, usually by setting forth the application of the principle to something familiar to the hearer or reader. One parable example that we have is the parable of the cashew nut. If you have heard of it, it's the story of the cashew nut, why the nut is outside and why is it not inside the fruit. So you may search for it. It's a good parable. And we also have pamphlet, or pamphlet is a small book of topic or of current interest. This one, pamphlet. And another one is the eulogy. Eulogy is writing in praise of a dead person, event, or a thing. Usually, we could hear this in prose form in prose form when you are in a funeral and something is saying their eulogy. And the last but not the least is the speech. For speech is the general word for a discourse delivered to an audience, whether prepared or impromptu. So for speech, we have several prose forms. We have the address. Address implies a formal carefully prepared speech and usually attributes importance to the speaker or the speech. Also have oration. Oration suggests an eloquent, rhetorical, sometimes merely bombastic speech, especially one delivered on some special occasion. Lecture is a carefully prepared speech intended to inform or instruct the audience. Talk suggests informality and is applied either to an impromptu speech or to an address or lecture in which the speaker deliberately uses a simple conversational approach. And last, prose form is the sermon. Sermon is a speech by a clergyman intended to give religious or moral instruction and usually based on scriptural texts. So these are some of the prose forms. For prose form, the form is written in a paragraph form. The language is expressed in ordinary language, and its appeal is to intellect or to inform your readers, viewers, listeners, and its aim is to convince, inform, instruct, imitate, and reflect. The other division is the poetry. Division of literature is poetry. So for poetry, the form is written in stanza or in verse form. The language expressed is in metrical, rhythmical, and figurative language. Basically, it is in language that is merely not in your ordinary language, and its appeal is to the emotion. Its aim is to steer the imagination and set an ideal of how life should be. So these are the two main divisions of literature. So if you have any questions, you may ask me through the group chat, or you may send a personal message through my messenger. Don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions. For references, you may check your handouts. References are already indicated there. We have by Literatura, 21st Century Philippine and World Literatures, Mindshapers School, incorporated by Ang Jaime G, year 2016. And we also have 21st Century Literature from the Philippines and the World, first edition by Marikit Tara Huichoco from Rex Bookstore, M. Recto Avenue, Manila. So I will be giving your requirement for this week. We have the first activity, which is identification. So identify what's being asked. Write answers on the space provided before each number. You may submit this on a yellow pad or in a coupon bond sheet, and on your handouts, the identification number is 1 up to 20, but I am just requiring you to answer numbers 1 to 10. And you may submit it once you're done. You may submit it to me personally at school, or you may also you may also submit it to me through Messenger as well if you are comfortable with that. And if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask me. Thank you so much for listening to our week 1 discussion. And to end this lesson, I will be sharing to you a Bible verse from the book of Mark, chapter 9, verse 23. Said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. Nothing is impossible for the Lord. And just keep on believing, have faith, and everything is possible. Thank you so much.